Hello and welcome back to Wi-Fi Sheet with me, Tom. Now, just before Christmas, some of you may remember we started the project to build a RetroPie gaming console using a stock Raspberry Pi 3B and one of my custom 3D printed CE or Compact Edition cases. Returning to the project today, I thought it might be quite fun to test the new Retro CE system against some real hardware. So I have here my original PAL N64 from the mid-1990s. And I thought we'd have a go at testing with a game called F1 World Grand Prix, released again around 97, 98 for the N64. Before we start, a quick reminder about the PCBWay 3rd PCB Design Contest. The competition is open and running now, with a deadline for entry on the 25th of April 2020. If you have a fantastic custom PCB design, why not enter? Top prizes from $1,000. Already entries are pouring in from all over the world, so why not join them? For full details, see www.pcbway.com/project/events/3designcontest.htm. The best of luck. Okay, now I know F1 World Grand Prix is a little bit dated now, being a game based around the 1990s. However, it was one of the better racing sims on the N64 platform, and I want to see how well such a demanding game actually works on the RetroPie under emulation. Now, there are a few issues around legalities of using third-party ROMs with RetroPie. So for today's demonstration, I have a legitimate copy of F1 World Grand Prix. This is the PAL version for our N64 to use. Because I want to run two copies at the same time, I actually have another physical copy here. These are both identical, so we now have two software licenses allowing us to be able to do this demonstration technically legally. Again, I'm not really going to go into that area because it's complicated to say the least. I'll leave it up to you where you live and your own moral and legal conscience as to what you do. So, how do you get a game ROM file into RetroPie? We first need a FAT32 formatted USB stick or pen drive, which needs to be placed in a PC or Mac. On the drive, create a folder called RetroPie. It doesn't matter if the drive has other data on it, most of mine do. You just need enough space for your ROM files, so about 500 megabytes to 1 gigabyte should be enough, if not attempting to load PlayStation disk ISOs. Next, boot up RetroPie on your Raspberry Pi and wait for the emulation station menu screen. Now place your USB stick in your Pi and wait for about 10 to 20 seconds. Then, without pressing anything on your RetroPie setup, remove the USB drive and place it back into your PC or Mac. Now open the RetroPie folder. You'll notice it now has a list of folders or directories inside, each folder corresponding to a supported system. All you then have to do is place your ROM files inside the correct folder, in this case N64. Placing the USB drive back into the Pi once again, restart the system and your newly added ROMs should appear in the menus. So, as mentioned, we'll test RetroPie against a real PAL N64. For mine, I use an RCA video cable from a GameCube, as this custom plug standard was used across the NES, N64 and GameCube systems. As this is a 90s analog out only console, a lot of adapters are required to convert the picture to HDMI for the capture card to read. Let's start with the opening screen from the N64 and then switch to RetroPie. And back to N64. And back to RetroPie. As you can already see, the image quality of RetroPie is impressive for a 20-plus-year-old game. Unlike other methods such as RGB or HDMI mods for the original hardware, RetroPie's stock N64 emulator, Pt.2, actually redraws frame by frame from the ROM source data, meaning it is possible to get a true HD resolution. The downside is it can only call from the original resources in the ROM, so textures and models are always going to look pixelated, soft or jagged with sharp edges. This is far more noticeable under RetroPie, as the soft N64 smear for console applied to try and soften up edges and hide imperfections is all but gone. But that's not to say things look too awful. In fact, F1 World Grand Prix is one of the better visual titles on the system. Remember, this had to run on a system originally with 4 MB of RAM, so to be able to build near accurate scale racetracks and surroundings is impressive. Now, most N64 games are designed to use the now infamous single joystick controller. This does give a nice analog control over the car. For RetroPie, I was using the D-pad of an SNES clone controller, which proved rather twitchy, so I'd suggest using something like a PS3 controller with analog support for best results. We can also see the difference if switching to first-person view. This game really does play well for its age, and really is an N64 gem and fairly overlooked. For one final test of this game, F1 World Grand Prix has a rather cool TV spectator mode, where the computer AI will play a whole race simulation for you and allows the player to watch and control the TV camera angles and which cars to follow. Naturally, to render a full 22 car grid and scenics in one shot is quite an ask for the now 25-year-old veteran console. And under RetroPie, the emulation does suffer, with almost total sound breakup and frame rate dropping to maybe 1 or 2 frames per second. However, as soon as the grid clears a little, things speed back up. Now, I thought this was due to the emulator, but let's try that again on real hardware. And wow, the sound's okay, but look at the frame rate that's dropped off once again due to the complexity of a full car grid. It seems F1 World Grand Prix really pushed the N64 beyond what it was capable of doing. Now, so far with everything running so well, you might be lulled into a false sense of security that RetroPie runs fantastically with everything. Unfortunately, that isn't the case, as I found out when I tried to run another stock title for the N64, that of Pilotwings 64. It really made next to no difference what I tried here. Pilotwings 64 ran awfully. Even dropping the resolution down to just 640 by 480 pixels made next to no difference. It would seem some N64 ROMs just don't work with emulators, which might explain why Nintendo ditched doing an N64 Classic system. Another classic that did work really well was Wipeout 64, and yes, that's the N64 port of the mid-90s PS1 Classic. This just ran flawlessly in HD mode, despite the graphical limitations, looks amazing and is really enjoyable to play. The sound, like the original, is a little compressed due to the nature of the cartridge media the N64 used, with the original PlayStation build offering video cutscenes and far better audio due to the CD format, allowing for up to 700 MB of data, as opposed to the 64 of the N64 cart. So there you go. Overall, I've really enjoyed this builder project, and I'm really pleased about how well so many of the original N64 titles do run on RetroPie, and with that HD upscaling and re-rendering frame by frame, it looks fantastic on modern displays. As ever, I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you real soon right here on the channel. Until next time, thank you so much for your company, and bye for now.